ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भान् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
मध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्।
शङ्कराचार्य
ॐ सहना भवतु
सहना भवतु
सहनौ
सहनौ
भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं
सह वीर्यं
करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
वहै।
मा विद्विषावहै।
शान्ति
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति
शान्तिः। Om Tat Sat, Om Namah
ॐ तत्सत्
Shivaya.
ॐ
Good
नमः
morning.
शिवाय।
Namaste.
So, continuing, we are on verse number 5 of the 14th chapter. Sri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Sattvam Rajastama iti
Sattvam
Sattvam
Rajastama
Rajastamaiti
Gunaः Prakriti Sambhavaः
Guna
Guna
Sambhava
Pratisambhavaha
Nibadnanti Mahabaho
Nibadhanti
Nibhadhanti
Dehinam Avyayam.
Dehinamavyanam.
Okay. So, hey Mahabaho, hey Arjuna, Sattvam Rajaha Tamaha iti, these three, Sattvam, Rajas, and Tamas, Gunaha are the three gunas. And what is the origin? Prakriti Sambhavaha. These three gunas are born from Prakriti itself. And therefore, Avyayam Dehinam Nibadnanti. So here, the literal translation is they bind the Avyayam, changeless, Dehinam, Dehi, Nibadnanti is bind. They bind the changeless Dehi, Dehe, to the body. Okay. So it's important to understand that the Dehi, who exactly is the Dehi?
The indweller.
The indweller of the Atma.
The indweller, which is the Atma. So when we say Atma, you have two aspects, the Jivatma and the Paramatma, both of which are present in the body.
Sakshi Chaitanyam.
So you are saying that the three gunas bind the Sakshi Chaitanya?
No, the Jiva.
No, the RCG.
The
It's
RC.
very important to understand these differences. Okay, you have Jivatma and Paramatma. Paramatma is Sakshi Chaitanya. Jivatma is the Ahankara Pradhana Chidabhasa, the RC, which is there because of the reflecting medium, the body and the mind. And Nibandhanti, they bind. They bind the changeless Dehi to the Dehe, to the body. Okay. Now, Shankara starts very beautifully the commentary because the word guna normally has the meaning of what? When you say इसके बहुत सारे गुण हैं,
Attributes of quality.
it has the meaning of attributes, the meaning of quality, right? So Shankara says, he starts by saying gunaha shabdaha iti paribhashika shabdaha. Paribhashika shabdaha. Paribhashika shabda means the paribhasha. It's a definition. It's a technical word used in Sankhya and Vedanta. Okay. So gunaha iti paribhashika shabdaha. He says, though the word guna has the meaning of general meaning of attribute or quality, it's a technical word used in Vedanta. And dravya ashritaha gunaha. Every word is important. Dravyam is the substance. Ashrita means dependent upon gunaha. So gunas normally refer to an attribute which is dependent on a substance. Okay. So when you say something has a color, that color depends on the substance. So, right? If it's a blue glass, the blue color is dependent upon the substance, the glass. But here, remember, guna should not be taken as attributes of Prakriti. Right? You should not say guna is a attribute of Prakriti because guna is Prakriti itself. And that is the very important understanding that we should have. When we say Triguna Atmika Maya, it is not that Maya has three gunas. Do you understand? You cannot say Maya is an entity which has got three gunas. The three gunas themselves are not different from Maya. Does it make sense?
So
Can you
we
please
say,
say that again?
yeah, three gunas are Maya. We don't differentiate that Maya is made up of three gunas or anything like that.
Can you give an example?
Acharya, just the way we say that the very nature of Brahman is the very nature of Brahman is pure consciousness. We can say that the very nature of Maya is the three gunas. Would it be correct to say this?
Well, we can have an argument on that, but this is probably not the right place. So I would say you look at the maybe what's a very worldly example, the choti of a girl. How many strands are there in the choti usually?
Yeah, the three intertwined ones.
Intertwined.
Mm.
Now, is the choti different from the three intertwined strands?
No.
That's a good example. When you say choti, you automatically refer to the three strands. When you say three intertwined strands, you are saying nothing but choti. The braid of hair, choti, right? Braided hair. So this is the understanding that you have. The three gunas interwoven together are called Prakriti or Maya. In that case, why does Krishna use the term guna? So here Shankara says very nicely that Krishna says here the term guna with a very specific intent. Just like a color is dependent upon the substance, he wants to show us that the entire Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, Tama, Iti, is a dependent entity. It is not that he is saying that Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas is dependent upon Prakriti, but he is saying that Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, which itself is Prakriti, is a dependent entity depending upon Atma. So a very important idea is presented here that Anatma is Mithya because it is dependent on Atma. So he says Tam Aspadikritya Atmana because they are sitting on Atma, because they are situated in Atma and they exist. And therefore, they are said to as if bind Atma. Nibadnanti iti uchyate. So Krishna says Nibadnanti, but here Shankaracharya adds a very important suffix. He says Nibadnanti eva, as if binds. Why does he say that?
Because actually Atma is asangaha, nothing can bind. It's only, it only appears. So
You have to look at it in the context of the discussion. We are saying that Prakriti, the Trigunas are a dependent entity. And therefore, Nibandhanti eva, as if binds. The idea is that Mithya can never bind Satya. Remember that, your the dream bullet fired in the dream may kill the dreamer, but it will not touch you, the waker.
Different level of reality.
Because two different levels of reality. The lower level of reality cannot touch, cannot taint, cannot contaminate the higher level of reality. And therefore, Prakriti Sambhavaha, these gunas are dependent upon Prakriti. On here means dependent on. And so Shankara, when he says Prakriti Sambhavaha, Shankara adds Bhagavan Maya Sambhavaha. Prakriti has to be taken as Bhagavan Maya, the Maya of Bhagavan Sambhavaha, born from. See, the idea of this dependence, this mithya, is a very, very important concept in Vedanta. Because you're all advanced students, you all know that already. But why is it so important? Why is mithya so important in understanding Vedanta?
So it can be easily discarded
No.
intellectually.
Remember this Prakriti and what do you call Maya concept, right? Brahman and Maya is that concept of Prakriti and Purushaha is also present in Sankhya. But in Sankhya, Prakriti is Satyam. There is no concept of Mithya in Sankhya at all. So both Purushaha and Prakriti are Satyam. Therefore, it is possible for Prakriti to bind Purushaha. But because Maya is Mithya, the binding is also Mithya. Because the binding is Mithya, therefore alone moksha is possible. Had the binding been Satyam, moksha would not be possible at all. Correct? That is why the idea of this dependence, Maya dependent on Brahman, is very important in understanding Vedanta. So Nibandhanti, who is bound to what? Dehe, Dehinam, Avyayam. Dehinam is what? Shankara says, Dehavantam. One who possesses the body is the Dehi. Right? Remember that Jivatma is Avyayam, immortal, not subject to change. But when he thinks that I am this body, he is bound to the Deha. The Shariram is bound. So the immortal Jiva, when he claims he is mortal, this claim is the binding to the body. There is no real binding. This claim is the binding to the body. And I don't know if you guys know the story of in the Second World War, there was a prisoner, who was, I think it was in Burma, he was locked up. And much after the war ended, he was still locked up. And one fine day, somebody passed by and looked into the window and said, "Why are you sitting there?" He said, "Because I'm a prisoner of war." And that guy said, "The war got over long ago." This fellow said, "But nobody unlocked my prison." So the other person said, "Is it unlocked? Or is it locked?" So this fellow went and he pulled the door and it opened. So he thought he was a prisoner, but in reality he was not. So this is called the avidya grantihi, the knot of ignorance. So the immortal Jivatma, who I am, when I claim I am mortal, I am bound by this knot, the knot of ignorance. And here you must remember the definition of non-changing, avyayam, which Krishna gave in the last chapter. Anaditvat, trigunatvat, paramatma, ayam, avyayaha. Sharirasthopi kaunteya, na karoti, na lipyate. The keywords are anaditvat, being beginningless, trigunatvat, having three gunas, ayam paramatma, avyayaha. This paramatma, this atma, is changeless. Okay. So now, at this point, one Purva comes. He says, okay, you quoted this particular verse of the 13th chapter. What does that verse say? You are looking at the first line, which says, Anaditvat Trigunatvat. I am Paramatma Avyayaha. Why are you conveniently forgetting to look at the next line? What does the next line say? Sharirasthopi na karoti na pripyat. Even though situated in the body, the Atma is not affected. So what are you saying? Here in the 13th, in the verse which you are quoting, Krishna is saying Atma is not affected even though Sharirastha api, even though situated in the body. And in this verse, what are you saying in the 14th chapter? Dehinam dehe nivattanti. You are saying that Atma is bound. Is it not a straight contradiction? Shankara says yes. That is why I added this suffix eva. Nibandhanti eva. It only appears to mind. What is the logic? At the Paramarthika level, it's very important to understand this argument. At the Paramarthika level, is there Prakriti at all?
It's Advaita. Brahman.
No.
At the Paramarthika level, there is only Brahman.
Yes.
Remember, Ishvara is not Paramarthika. When you say Ishvara, it means Brahman plus Maya. Therefore, Ishvara is very much as Vyavaharika as you and I are. So, from the point of view of Paramarthika, there is no Prakriti, there is no Guna. Where is the binding? Right? But at the Vyavaharika level, there are two aspects. You are either a Jnani or you are a Ajnani. If you are a Ajnani, you don't have Atma, Anatma, Vivekaha. You don't have Kshetrajna Jnanam. And for you, binding is very much there. If you are a Jnani, you do have Atma, Anatma, Vivekaha. And therefore, there is no Prakriti at all. Where is the binding? So with Jnanam, there are no gunas. They cannot bind. With avidya, binding is possible. All right? And there is a text called Maya Panchakam. Very nice line over there. Aghatita Ghatna Pathiyasi Maya. Aghatita Ghatna Pathiyasi. Aghatita means that which cannot happen. Ghatna Pathiyasi means making it happen. Right? So Maya is that which is capable of making that happen which cannot happen. Very nice definition of Maya. Maya Panchakam. Aghatita Ghatna Pathiyasi Maya. Maya is that entity or that force which makes it possible for that which cannot happen to happen. Okay. Now, this poor Pakshi gets up and says, all that is fine, But Krishna is Bhagavan. And hey, Shankara, you are not Bhagavan. So Krishna does not say Eva. He says Nibadhanti. How can you add to Ishvara's words? How can you think you have the right to add to Shankara, to Lord Krishna's words. It is sacrilege, is it not? That you say, I'm improving on Lord Krishna. Good argument. So Shankara says, okay, that's a good argument. But this Eva is not my doing. I have borrowed from Veda. Because in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is, Shruti itself says, Yatrahi Dvaitam Eva Bhavati. Wherever there is Dvaitam, it will bind. But seemingly bind. So that Eva from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I have just put to my commentary. So you cannot say that I am adding to Krishna's words. Krishna is just repeating Shruti. He has not used Eva, but he actually meant Eva. That is the argument. Okay, any questions? Fine. Now we look at the 6th verse. Tatra sattvam nirmalatva
Tatra sattvam
Tatra
nirmalatva
prakashakam anamayam
prakashakam
Manayanam
sukhasanghena badhnati
Kasena Badhanati
jnanasanghena chanaka.
Jnanasangena Chanaka.
So you should note that from the previous verse, from verse number 5, the topic has changed. What was the topic in the earlier verses?
Guna.
In the earlier verses, before 4, before 5.
Discussion at the
It was the creation. Topic was Srishti.
Srishti.
Okay. If you look at the verses, word, they say, Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharnam magataha sargopi nopajayante pralayana vatyatica mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamya. From my yoni, everything was born. And therefore, that was creation. But from the 5th verse, the topic has changed to bondage. It's important to understand. The topic is different, bondage. Okay. So, here if you look at it, Tatra Sattvam Prakashakam. Tattva Sattvam Prakashakam. Tatra, among those. Among those means among those 3 gunas, Sattvam Prakashakam. Sattva is bright. And Anamayam, Nirmalatvat. Anamayam means it's incapable of causing any harm. Nirmalatvat, because it is nirmala, because it is pure. And in spite of that, sukha sanghena badhanati. It binds by causing attachment to pleasure. Also, jnana sanghena badhanati. It causes bondage because it attaches you to knowledge. Jnana sanghena. Hey anaga. Hey sinless person. Hey sinless Brahman. Okay. Now, whenever we analyze the 3 gunas, you can divide the analysis into 5 topics. The first is Lakshana, indication or definition of the gunas. The second is Bandha Prakaraha, the methodology of binding, how the guna binds. The third is the Lingam, Guna Lingam, the indication to find which guna is predominant in a person. Okay. Then the 4th one is Gatihi. What is the course of travel taken by the jiva after the death of the physical body? And the 5th one is the phala, the fruit. Okay. So remember, Gatihi and Phalam seem to be the same because type of travel is Gatihi. Then what is the difference? Phalam. So Gatihi is the Phalam after death because I'm saying type of travel, right? And Phalam is what he endures or what he goes through while living before the body dies. So that is the difference between Gatihi and Phalam, which you should remember. So in this verse, number 6, Krishna talks about Sattva Lakshanam and Sattva Bandha Prakaraha. In the 7th verse, it is Rajas Lakshanam and Rajo Bandha Prakaraha. In the 8th verse is Tamo Lakshanam and Tamo Bandha Prakaraha. With this background, let us see. Tatra. Among these gunas, Sattvam has the Lakshanam. What? Prakasham, Prakashakam, Anamayam, Nirmalam. Prakashakam is bright. Anamayam is harmless because of Nirmalam, because of it being pure. How does it bind? By making us identify with these virtues. So instead of saying I am the Sakshi, I say I am Prakashakam, Anamayam, Nirmalam. Each word is important. As long as I don't claim myself as Sakshi, remember I am bound. So even if I am Sattva Guna predominant, I am still bound with the Guna. That is what is being said here. Now let's look at these three words. Prakashakam, Anamayam, Nirmalam. Nirmalam is purity. Why? Because it is a pure, or in other words, a Sattva predominant mind, which is capable of reflecting Atma Ananda. It is Prakashakam because it's a predominantly Sattva mind which has the capacity to analyze and contemplate. Right? So Nirmalam reflects Ananda, Prakashakam reflects consciousness, and Anamayam, literally, the Sanskrit word Anamayam means free of disease. But we have taken it as not capable of causing any harm because of Shankaracharya, who translates Anamayam as Nir Upadravam. What is Upadrava?
Disturbance.
Upadrava is disturbance or causing harm. Upadrava is also harm. Okay. Or disturbance, whichever. So, Nirupadrava means not causing any disturbance or any harm. So, all these three qualities, Nirmalam, Prakashakam, Anamayam. What is the locus?
Is it the mind, Acharya?
Atma, this is at the Samashti level, Atma.
No, I'm talking about what is the locus for an individual.
Mind.
Mind.
Is the Antakarana, right? So, they belong to whom? The Antakarana or to you?
To the mind.
They belong to the mind. And as long as you say that I am these three things, you are saying I am the mind, which is why you are bound. If you claim them as your qualities, you are bound. If you say I am Sakshi, but the mind is Nirmalam Prakashakam Anamayam, then only can you be free. Okay. Now look at the next quarter of the verse. Sukha Sangena Vadanati. Sukha Sangena Vadanati, Shankara says, it can be taken as saying that Aham Sukhi. I am happy. What is wrong with saying I am happy? Well, everybody wants to be happy. But Shankara says the moment you say I am happy, this verse, this quarter of the verse comes into play. Sukha Sangena Badanati. Why? Why is it bondage?
Because if there's pleasure, there will be pain also. Both will.
That's not a logic.
Happiness is my very nature.
Nature.
When I say I am happy means
It's
I
temporary.
separate the two.
When it is my ahankara, which is speaking, I am associating with RC, Namtosi.
But we just finished saying that all these qualities belong to the mind. When you say, I am happy, you should have actually said, the mind is happy. If you are saying, I am happy, what has happened? The happiness belonging to the mind, Shankara says, Atmani samslesha apadanam. You have transferred to yourself. You understand? When you say, I am happy, you are transposing the happiness which belongs to the mind onto yourself, the Atma. And that transfer is a false transfer. And this false transfer is a adhyasa. Therefore, sukha sangena badanati has to be understood as sukha adhyasena badanati. I am bound because of the transference of the attribute of the mind to me. Is it clear?
Yes, Acharya ji.
Therefore, experiencing happiness is wonderful. Okay. Nobody says don't experience happiness. But to draw a conclusion from that experience, saying that I am happy, that is a mistake. So this understanding should be very clear. Experiencing happiness is great. Everybody wants to experience happiness. But from that, never say, I am happy. It goes against everything that we learn, right? That we do in your real life. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to say, I'm happy. But here is Shankara saying that you be happy, experience happiness, but never say that you are happy. He reminds us, Vishaya Dharmaha, Vishayini na bhavati. Vishaya Dharmaha, the attributes of the object cannot belong to the Vishayini, the experiencer of the object. And we saw that in the last chapter. Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sangataschetana dhritihi etat chetram samasena savikaram udharatam. All emotions belong to etat kshetram samasena, belong to the kshetram alone. And therefore, whenever you say, I am happy, it is pratibimba ananda, reflected happiness. Pratibimba ananda belongs to kshetram. Experienced ananda belongs to kshetram. When you're experiencing ananda, who experiences? The kshetram. The RC experiences. But bimba ananda doesn't belong to kshetri. Atmananda, Brahmananda, or Bimba Ananda as it is called, it doesn't belong to you. What is the correct statement?
You are Atmananda.
I am Atmananda.
Atmananda.
The Kshetri is Atmananda. You can never say, I am happy. If you say, I am happy, you are referring to the Kshetra. If you say, I am happiness, you are referring to yourself. So that is about how it binds you. It binds you Sukha Sangena Badnati. That Sattva Guna binds you when you mistake the mind for yourself. You do that, remember it is the mind which is Sattva Guna predominant. You have no gunas at all. Gunas belong to Vyavaharika, not to Paramartha. Okay. Then what does he say? The last quarter. Jnana Sangena Chanaka. Jnana Sangena Badnati Cha Anaka. Hey Anaka. Hey Arjuna. Sattva also binds by attachment to knowledge. Now, the moment you say that, I have a question. Does Jnanam belong to Atma or Anatma?
Atma.
Atma.
Atma or Anatma?
Anatma.
Anatma.
Anybody has another answer? It has to be
Atma
that.
is knowledge itself, the knowledge principle.
And therefore, whenever you say Jnanam, or this question itself, when I say, does Jnanam belong to Atma or Anatma, you should ask another question first for clarification. What is that question?
Is there anything to belong?
No. The question is, are you talking about Vritti Jnanam or are you talking about Swarupa Jnanam?
Right.
Vritti Jnanam, if you say, it requires Chidabhasa. Therefore, it requires Anatma. Therefore, Vritti Jnanam belongs to Anatma. And Sattva Guna generates Vritti Jnanam. Right? But remember that Sattva Guna is never pure Sattva Guna. It is always Malina Sattva, contaminated Sattva Guna. Contaminated by what?
Rajas and Tamas.
And therefore, even the most predominant of Sattva Guna has got Avarna Shakti. Therefore, that same Sattva Guna can make me non-discriminative also. And because of this Aviveka, what do? I fail to recognize that Vritti Jnanam belongs to Anatma. And I superimpose that Vritti Jnanam from the mind, from the Antakarana to myself, the Atma. And therefore, remember that if I say I am happy, I am really Ajnani. Right?
Yes, Acharya.
But in the transactional world,
You don't say you're unhappy. You don't say you're happy also. Okay, let's ask me this. When I say, you come to me and say, Raviji, you've studied for, so many years and you're a teacher and all blah, blah, blah. Are you a jnani? What am I supposed to answer?
Nothing actually.
Sorry?
Nothing actually, because if you're
Oh.
saying that I'm a Jnani makes it Dvaitam, and it means somebody else is not a Jnani.
Not from that point of view.
Okay.
If I say I'm a jnani, what have I done? That
You have-
jnanam belongs, the jnanam is vritti jnanam. Because the
That is
knowledge that
Anatma.
I am Brahman is vritti jnanam. That vritti jnanam belongs to the mind. And when I say that I am jnani, I am saying I am the mind, which means I am not a jnani. That is why no jnani can ever tell you that I am a jnani, because the moment he says I am a jnani, he is saying I am the anatma, which makes him not a jnani.
But Acharyaji, the Jnani also cannot just say I am. he has to, in this transactional world, to make others understand and to.
The jnani can never answer that I am a jnani. No guru who is worth his salt will ever tell you that he's a jnani. He's hitting at the very root of his teaching. You go and ask SPG that. You know what he'll do?
He will perhaps laugh.
He'll smile and he'll say, "Can you pass me the water?" That question is a non-answerable question. Because once you've understood Vedanta, you will not ask the question. So as long as you ask the question, you have not understood. And therefore, the only answer I can give if you say, "Are you a jnani?" is to say, "Come for the next class." You have to keep on coming for that class until the date when you stop asking that question. It's not a question which can be answered.
Acharya, can we put it this way also? I am bliss and I am in bliss. Like I am bliss.
You say, "I am in bliss," you are a ajnani.
That is mind.
That, yeah, there is a relationship.
Yes. If you say, "I am bliss,"
that is Atmananda.
that is Atmananda. But remember that at the Paramarthika level, I am bliss means what? You are trying
Subject
to
and
define
object.
yourself. You have to define yourself.
Yeah, subject and
That
object.
definition cannot exist at the Paramarthika level, right? So that's a different discussion. We'll come to that in the Upanishads.
So when
So
there are
here-
no more questions, then it is, that's the state of jnani.
When there are no more questions, see, when does that you get a master's certificate? Let us say you're studying for something. When you can answer all the questions set in the examination paper, right? Which means there are no more questions to ask you. Therefore, you can be said to be a jnani. Again, I'll repeat. Only when you understand that you can never say that you are a jnani. Because jnanam is vritti jnanam. Right? It belongs to anatma. And the question here is, how do you know that in this shloka, jnanam means vritti jnanam? Because Krishna never said so. Krishna says jnanam. What is the answer? You have to see what I quoted. Ichha dvesha sukha dukkham sanghatas chetana dhritihi. Where do they belong?
They belong
to the mind.
mind.
And in this sloka, Krishna uses two words, sukham and jnanam. And therefore they both belong to the mind. Sukham is definitely vritti. And since these words are used in conjunction, together, in context, there has to be a contextual interpretation. And that contextual interpretation is what Shankara does. And he says you have to relate it to Ichha Dvesha Sukham Dukkha. There, Sukham is vritti jnanam. Here also, therefore, their Sukham is vritti jnanam. Sorry, their Sukham is vritti, belonging to the mind. And therefore, using that same context, when you use the word jnanam over here in conjunction with Sukham, you have to give the same interpretation. It is a vritti jnanam, belonging to the mind. Of course, that is the Shastric based on the two, quotations, right? But there is a logical interpretation also. Between vritti jnanam and swarupa jnanam, which jnanam can you transfer from atma to anatma?
Vritti.
Vritti. Why can you not transfer swarupa jnanam from atma to anatma, from anatma to atma?
There is only Atma.
The Swarupnyanam is already there.
You cannot transfer to yourself what is already there. So Atma already is Swarupa Jnanam. Where is the question of transferring Swarupa Jnanam? Besides which, Anatma does not have Swarupa Jnanam. So two reasons. One is that because Anatma does not have Swarupa Jnanam, you cannot transfer it from Anatma. And second is because Atma already has Swarupa Jnanam. Where is the question of transferring it to Atma? Therefore, this Jnanam has to be Vritti Jnanam. And there is a third argument also. Okay. The third argument is that what is natural to you cannot create bondage. And Krishna is talking about the transference of something creating a bondage. Right? It is like, when your original kidney, when you have an original kidney, you don't require what they call immunity suppression drugs. Why don't require? Because it's your original kidney and the body will not reject it. But the transplanted kidney, that suppression drugs are regularly to be given because without it, the body will reject the kidney, which is not its natural kidney. Same here. Argument is the same here. What is natural to me cannot create a problem. Therefore, Swarupa Jnanam cannot create any problem for me. But since Krishna is talking about transference creating a bondage, it has to be something which is not natural to me. And that is only Vritti Jnanam. Therefore, Vritti Jnanam will create a problem. And therefore, he is talking only about Vritti Jnanam. Only Vritti Jnanam can create this bondage. All very beautiful arguments, not found elsewhere. Okay. Only Shankaracharya's brain comes out with all these things. And he says, Cha Anagaha, hey Arjuna, who is free from Agam. Agam means Papa. So having said that, let us summarize by noting the differences between Atma Ananda and Pratibimba Ananda. Atma Ananda is Nityam. Pratibimba Ananda comes and goes. Anityam. Atma Ananda has gradations. Anatma Ananda has got gradations. Atma Ananda is uniform. There is no gradation at all. You don't have higher form of Atmananda and lower form of Atmananda. While Pratibimba Ananda, because it depends upon the quality of the reflecting medium, it will have gradations. Then, Pratibimba Ananda is experienceable. Atma Ananda is not experienceable. That is why you can never say, I am happy. When you say, I am happy, the mind is experiencing the Ananda. And therefore, when you say, I am happy, you are saying, I am the mind. And of course, one is Satyam and one is Mithya. Okay. Now, there are two methods of obtaining Pratibimba Ananda. What are they?
Through Vishayas.
One is by actually acquiring the object of pleasure, Vishaya.
Yeah.
What is the second one?
Getting rid of what you don't want.
No, not that. Pratibimba Ananda is not that.
Meditation, samadhi that we have.
Knowledge.
Some of you have been through Taittiriya Upanishad, no? Recall the Ananda Mimamsa portion.
Just imagining.
Anyway, so we'll bring Taittiriya Upanishad soon again for the second batch, for this batch. So I think they will see. The thing is that Taittiriya Upanishad says that there is a second method. Through Vairagyam for that object, you can obtain Pratibimba Ananda. So there are two methods of obtaining Pratibimba Ananda. One is by acquiring the object. One is by developing a Vairagyam for the object. I don't need the object. While Bimba Ananda has only one method. What is that?
Swarup.
What's the method? What is the sadhana?
Ajnana nivritti.
Jnana.
Jnanam alone. Okay. All right. Now we look at the seventh verse. We will chant. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi
Rajo ragatmakam vidhi.
Krishna sangas samudbhavam.
Krishna.
Sangas samudbhavam.
Samudbhavam.
Tannibadhnati kaunteya.
Tannibadhnati kaunteya.
Karmasangena dehinam.
Karmasangena dehinam.
So vidhi rajaha ragatmakam. Know that rajas. The atmakam here is in the nature of. So vidhi raja ragatmakam. Know that rajas has the nature of ragaha, attachment and passion, and trishna sangaha samudbhavam. And from that rajas is born trishna, desire, and sangaha, attachment. The desire, therefore, rajas is the karanam for trishna and sangaha, for desire and attachment, for longing and attachment. And therefore, tad nibadnati dehinam. Therefore, binds the deha, dehi. How? Karma sangena ekanteya, by attachment to karma, by attachment to action. So, rajo ragatmakam vidhi. This is the lakshanam portion. It is of the nature of attachment and passion. The rajoguna mind is always extroverted. It needs relationships. It needs people. And therefore, rajas makes a person oriented towards external things. He is constantly interested in companionship. You cannot leave him alone in one room. He'll go crazy. And Shankara says, this is like a red color. You know, the rajas is like the red color used for dyeing a white cloth. Once the cloth is dyed with red color, it is very difficult to remove. And similarly, he says, once your antakaranam is tainted with raga, it's extremely difficult to remove. So remember, we are not saying that rajas is good or bad. There is no, judgment over here. It is a non-judgmental observation. Why? Because minds are of various types. And you require each guna for liberation. All the three gunas are required for liberation. Why? Because for Chitta Shuddhi, you need Karma Yoga, you need Panchamahayajna. For all that, you require Rajas. But for study of Vedanta, you require Sattva Guna. So each guna will play its own role. And for resting the mind, you will require Tama Guna. Therefore, in the sadhana, you are always using one guna or the other, Rajas or Sattva, and during rest, you are using Tamas. Right? So all gunas are important for your spiritual evolution. So he says, Trishna asanga samudbhava. Trishna means and desire. And Shankara carefully adds, desire for that which is not obtained is Trishna. Right? And asangaha means holding on to that object which has not been acquired, but is pleasing your mind. Right? That is Rajoguna. What is the source? Is born from Rajoguna only. Therefore, Rajoguna is the source for desire and attachment. What is the difference? Desire is for things which you do not have. Attachment is for things which you already possess. And therefore, tannibnati, hey Arjuna. Right? Tataha nibdhnati. Nibdhnati is binds, deeply binds. How karma sankena, by creating a desire for more karma, by attachment to karma. And what does this karma give you? Shankara adds, drishta, adrishta artheshu. That you can get worldly benefits and next world benefits. So both laukika karma and vaidika karma. So laukika karma, worldly karma gives you worldly benefits. Vaidika karma gives you punyam or journey to Swarga. Both are benefits. Remember that in the process of doing some karma, I may do both good karma and bad karma. Both types of karma have the same effect. They enhance the bondage. Therefore, Rajoguna binds the RC, the Dehi, the individual. Karma Sangaha by making attached to karma all the time. So even though karma is required for Chitta Shuddhi, is there anything wrong in doing karma is a question. So here you have to say karma is required up to a particular stage. After that, one has to shift to Jnana Yoga. Okay. And we should add over here. I transfer those karmas upon myself. I say I am a karta because of adhyasa. And because of that adhyasa, I, the akarta, atma, convert myself to the karta, jivatma. I'll tell you a story, which, in closing, of course, I'll tell you a story which Swami Dayananda ji used to tell. So there was a sculptor who was a very highly skilled sculptor, right? And he became very famous. All sort of his products, his statues were selling, a dime a dozen. But like all human beings, he grew old. Now this particular person was very proud of his skills, and he wanted those skills to be permanently present in the world. Therefore, he did not want to die. So he went to this rishi and said, "Hey, Swamiji, I don't want to die." So Swamiji said, that is not possible. Because when Yamadharma Raja's Yamaduta will come to take you when your time has come, they will find you and they will take you away. So this fellow thought to himself, what if I make some, perfect statues of myself? Then this Yamaduta's, Duta, the agents of Yama, they will not be able to make out who is me, because if there are a few statues also present, and I am so good at such a skilled sculptor that it will look exactly like me, how will they decide whom to take? So that was his solution. So therefore, what did he do? He made some 9 sculptures of himself. And they were so good that you couldn't really make out the difference, which was the statue and which was the real sculpture. And when the time came for his death, he went and stood with the statues. And when the time came, Yamaraj sent his agents and the agents came, and just as this fellow had predicted, they could not distinguish which one is the real sculptor. So they went back and they told Yamadharmaraja that, we just can't find him. And Yama said, you guys know, you're useless fellows. You should know how to handle human beings. So they said, how, oh Lord? We don't know how to handle human beings. So he said, I will show you. Come with me. So then Yama took on a human form. Then he took them all. And so it was a training meet, right? So a training schedule. So he took them all and say, see how it is done. So he came, Yama came, and with him all his agents were also there, who were trying to learn how Yamaraj is going to do this, because we couldn't do it. So Yamaraj came and looked at all the statues and said loudly, oh, these are all so beautifully done. No human being could possibly have done this. Only a divine artist could have done this. Hearing this, what happened? The original sculptor got, insulted. And he got up and said, what do you mean? I have done this. And Yamaraj said, okay, great. Now let's go to Yamaloka. What is the moral? Kartrutvam is a fatal quality. So with this, I'll stop for today. Any questions?
Very nice story.
Yeah. Human frailty.
Human frailty. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.